like, then they'll start questioning him.
Yeah, he says he needs to find the truth before he can talk to them, and that's the end of the episode. But I think I have more to say about this interaction and John specifically.
I also had some notes about the episode in general for after that.
Okay, perfect. Sam, can't sense his dad, which is interesting. But yeah, why would he be able to do that? Because Sam doesn't have an emotional connection to John, really. Like, he cares about his dad because it's his dad, and he's been raised to view family as having a value. Dean particularly has that more than Sam does, but Sam still has that to an extent. And obviously Sam values Dean, but he doesn't have an emotional closeness with John. Like, with Dean and Sam, if they're in a fight, they know exactly where the other person is at all times during that fight, even though they're focused on not dying. They know exactly where the other person is, what they're doing at all times. Yeah, there's no way that Sam and John would ever have that. It's like Sam and Dean sometimes like share like a brain, and so why would he? And he doesn't even really want to find their father. Like, he's very concerned that when they do find John, it's going to be John's going to tell him to go away. So yeah, why would he?
More like he feels he has a responsibility to find John, but not a desire.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we talked about this when we talked about our John Winchester's whereabouts in season 1, but I can't think of a good reason not to talk to the boys here, especially in this situation. I think it's heinous that John heard that tremble in Dean's voicemail and didn't show up to like provide some comfort.
It's just not who he is. He's feral.
But I also want to take another angle on this because I think it's too early in the show's run to have the boys come face to face with John. I think that this was a necessity.
Yeah, on the writing side of things.
Yeah, because it's the end of the following episode where they have their first like contact with John, where they like get that call from John, and I think that it's really good storytelling to draw this out for longer and for us to know that John was here without the boys knowing. However, I think John's character suffers as a result.
Good. You mean like building his character, not like actually John?
Both, actually. I mean both. Because I think that Sam and John are on the same sort of path in season 1, where the person that they loved has been taken by this thing, and they're out for revenge. It's taken over all of the rest of their lives. You know, Sam's dropped out of school, John dropped out of his entire life and his business and being a father and all of it. You know, they're very much paralleled as being alike and being on the same path, even though I would never, ever claim that John and Sam are actually alike. They do have a lot of similarities, and, you know, they're going through this, they're on the same route. But Sam knows that killing the thing that killed Mom and the thing that killed Jess isn't going to bring Mom or Jess back, isn't really going to bring him peace. It'll just make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else.
Right. He also actually sees his family as family instead of, like, assets to, like, get his revenge.
Yeah, or liabilities to look out for. Whereas I think John really feels he will not know peace until, like, Mary's avenged, but I feel like John thinks he will feel that peace once she's avenged. Whereas I think Sam knows that peace just doesn't really exist for him anymore.
And I wonder if he learned that as a result of seeing John.
I don't know.
Maybe. I also kind of think John has a death wish and wants to take out that killed Mary or go down swinging. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree.
He just wants to be with Mary no matter how. He's just too much of a, I guess he's not a coward for not wanting to do it himself, but...
No, I think that is something that John's dealing with.
He's totally suicidal.
And I think we see other characters do the same sort of thing, or it's alluded that they would react the same way. But I think it's interesting that Sam's not reacting that way.
Right.
But also, I think, what I was getting to was that if John had been with them in the house with this whole scene with Mary, I think that John's, as a character, would have undergone some other character development, you know, that wouldn't have excused how he treated the boys. But I also don't think that the writers would have wrote how he treated the boys the way that they did.
Right.
I don't know why they did, honestly, because they never really addressed John as abusive, but they consistently write him as so abusive. I'm not sure.
Right. Like, they never narrated him as an antagonist, but they still made him like a very abusive person without narrating him in that antagonist way.
I don't think that they would have wrote him that way if John had been here for this moment, because I think that John would have felt some peace from this interaction. I think if John had been here, he had seen Mary willingly sacrifice herself to save their family, I think that would have given him peace.
I maintain that he would have been, I think people would have liked him better if he had been written as a villain.
I agree.
He would have been like a really complex villain, but right now he's just awful.
Like Metatron. At least he was a good, like a well-written villain.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I think about that. Meredith, you have some plot analysis that you haven't gotten to yet.
I do, yeah. This episode is just really meant to hit close to home, so to speak. The boys are returning to where it all began, like to the place that made them since, well, it began. And they're no longer the happy little kids they used to be, and now they're bruised and battered and traumatized by what they've gone through, and they've gone through those things because of what happened to this house. And the thing that I love is that the house itself reflects the Winchesters. Like, something evil and horrific happened within the house, and as Missouri said, it left wounds. So, like, the house itself bears scars and has to endure the darker parts of the supernatural, just like the Winchesters.
Wow, and that's interesting.
Wow. It's just so cool. Like, it's this parallel in the house and the people that used to live in it.
I never caught that. I'm such a sucker for like tangible, like, oh man, that's awesome. Like representations of character growth, so like that specifically is amazing. Wow.
Congrats, Meredith. You've stunned Julia.
I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely. Well done.
I also think this episode comes at a really good time because, like, we've had several episodes to get to know Sam and Dean, and we have a really good idea of who they are, what their relationship is like, and this complicated view they have of their father. So we've established, like, the formula of the episodes, and that means that now is a great time to shake things up. You've got to show the audience how the machine works before you throw a wrench into the gears.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we're going to get the ball rolling on, like, the actual plot and, like, take these characters and do something with, like, that tragic origin story. We're going to make Dean, like, go to his breaking point for the first time and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, that way there's a stronger, like, emotional response from the audience. Like, we've been traveling with them for several episodes, and we feel like we know them, like, well enough to know that going back to their old house could just destroy them.
On to some of our weekly segments and panels where KJ updates the stats on some things, and we're going to keep track of some other things. So, total deaths. This week we saw 0 deaths, keeping our on-screen total at 118, and the on- and off-screen total for this episode was also 0 because we already counted Mary. So the on- and off-screen total is still 796 plus.
Nice. This is weird.
Yeah, we also tried to assign an MVP of the week, so let's see who our guests would like to nominate as this week's most valuable person.
I would probably go with Sam, because his dreams knew where they needed to go. His visions kind of helped them figure out who they needed to talk to, and he also had a feeling about the house was not empty, so things weren't over. So I'd say he's definitely the MVP.
And Lucas?
Definitely Sam, because I feel that, so since this was definitely a journey for him to go back home, like ever since the fire, he's never ever, as I said before, never got a sense of like closure or like any real like solid proof or just anything to give him like a mother figure about Mary, and for him to go back home and to like just to face the very thing that has forged him to become the man he is today, and to like finally get a nice good lead on the very thing that has like killed their mom and like set them on this path of monsters and horror, and just finally coming to his own and even get to see her the first time. So yeah, I'd say definitely Sam.
So, I want to say Missouri, but I just can't forgive her for not knowing that there is still stuff left. I'm going to go the route that I went originally, and I can't remember who first brought this up, but I was like, yes, I'm going to die on the show now. I'm going to go with Richie, the juice guy.
Richie!
The little juice kid. He had his priorities straight. He knew what he wanted. He set out to get it, and he became kind of a major clue for them to solve it. So, Richie.
Richie. Honestly, any excuse to talk about Richie.
I really like that everyone's been pointing out everything Sam did, but I'm going to go with Mary because, you know, she comes back like full force and takes out the poltergeist. I just think that's cool.
Fair enough. That's valid. I am going to agree with Jordan and Lucas. Sam for the psychic stuff, although, you know what? Dean saved his life, so, you know, but I'm sticking with Sam. We have a bunch of, like, Dean ones coming up, so that's not really a good reason to pick Sam. Sam for the psychic stuff. Next, this show has so few women. Let's put it to the Bechdel test. Did we have 2 named women in this episode? Yeah, we had 3. We had Jenny, Mary, and Missouri.
Were we counting Sorry? She's a girl.
Oh, and sorry, yeah,
right.
she's a girl, but she was named and she was here. And did they talk to one another?
Yes.
Yes. Jenny and Missouri talked. Jenny and Sari talked. And lastly, was that conversation with something other than a man? We didn't see most of it, but they definitely talked about what was in the house.
Also, Jenny and Sari were talking about the monster in her closet.
Yes, so that's a pass. That is a solid pass.
I feel like the bar was on the floor.
Yeah, right.
Somehow you still managed to squeak under it most of the time.
Right?
And then this week's case of the week was a poltergeist. Does anyone have anything they wanted to say about poltergeists?
I have a bit of research.
Go for it.
So the word poltergeist is German. It's from poltern, to make noise or to rumble, and geist, ghost or spirit. So it's literally a noisy ghost. The legends that I read, poltergeists are mostly like Peeves from Harry Potter. Like they knock things over, they break things, they pinch and hit people, and generally just torment people, make nuisances of themselves. And the more lethal poltergeists probably come from movies and real life cases, because there have been a lot of real life cases where people think they have a poltergeist. They're kind of scary to read about.
They sound scary to deal with.
I have actually a couple anecdotes from a specific case. I can't remember the name of the family, but it was kind of weird.
I like weird.
Awesome.
Entertain me with the weirdness.
I can give you weird. All right. So, one case, a family was haunted by a ghost, poltergeist. They didn't call it a poltergeist, but I am. 3-year-old son somehow ended up on a tall shelf with no recollection of how he got there. Later, a fire started under his bed in the middle of the night.
3-year-olds usually aren't great at fire starting. It's not usually one of their skills.
Fortunately, his parents were able to save him before he got hurt. But this poltergeist case is actually my favorite, just because it's unique. Like, the family would get written notes from the spirit.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds...
What?
One of them actually said, "When are you leaving?"
Are we sure that these people didn't have, like, an enemy, a neighbor? Because...
And the father actually wrote down a date on the piece of paper and left on that date.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And so, like, yeah, we're getting out of here.
I mean, fair. I would, too.
Near the beginning of the haunting, the husband was, like, kind of wondering, like, okay, what's going on? So he stood next to the door of, I think it was the living room. He was waiting for something to happen. And when he opened the door after a really long time, because he hadn't heard anything, and he was just wondering, like, okay, so what's going on? And he found what looked like a group of people standing around the room. They weren't people. Someone had pulled all the clothes from the closets, wadded them up into life-size rag dolls, and dressed them up.
That is terrifying.
That is just so creepy. And
So
also,
weird.
I think there was also like some sort of angel statuette like hanging from the ceiling, and it looked like they were worshiping it.
No.
Mm-mm.
Hell.
I'm out.
So they didn't leave the house until a really long time after that. So I would have left. Why?
That night, I'm not sleeping in that house ever again.
Poltergeist, like there is someone out there to hurt you. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so fast.
Get out of that house.
Directly before that, the thing that had made him like wait outside the door, someone had pulled like his wife's nightgown and just laid it on the bed and crossed its sleeves like it was a dead person.
Oh my gosh.
No, like stay out of the
Sounds like a crazy person.
Yeah.
That's what they thought. And then this happened. And then a bunch of other stuff happened. And then they were like, yeah, okay, we're going to go. Because it's asking us when that's going to happen.
This is a dangerous situation. I'm out.
Yep. I was entertained. Thank you. Yeah, now I'm going to ask everyone for a low light, which is their least favorite part of the episode, and a highlight, which is their favorite part of the episode. So we're going to start with Julia.
Alright, I think my favorite part of the episode was Zuri saying, "Boy, if you put your foot on my table, I'm going to whack you with a spoon." I love that. I love that line. I think it was a great introduction to her character, and also, we just love making fun of Dean.
Yeah.
Love that. Yes. A low light would be the very end when it revealed John. Like, what the heck? I was so mad. I was like, who is this guy? What the heck? How dare he?
Yeah, that's valid. Meredith?
Highlight. I really love the climax. There's just so many parallels, and like it's really dramatic. And you see Mary, so like that whole scene, like right at the very end, just love it.
Yeah, that was good.
So good. And my low light, I'm kind of tempted to say John, but really I had a stronger reaction when the repair guy got his hand mulched, so I'm gonna go with that.
My low light is probably the misogyny.
Yes.
Let's put up your skirt, pal. I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, fair enough.
And my highlight is definitely the epic battle that ensues in the house.
My highlight is when Dean is trying to call John and just saying that I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do to help Sam and everything. And it's like just witnessing the hero coming finally to his breakpoint after many episodes we've seen just seeing somebody crumble. Lowest point is just seeing John showing up at the end. And who was it that said that you know that your dad's a deadbeat when the doctor shows up?
That was Meredith.
She shows up even when dead, and he's still there solving it out, and now it's saying that it's Sam and Dean. So yeah, lowest point is for John.
Everybody was correct with those. My highlight is just Missouri Mosley as a whole.
Fair.
I am